Hello, thanks for joining us. Michael, KC9PHK here, on behalf of the Clay County Area Amateur Radio Club. We've had a lot of requests for the 2020 to 2024 Extra Class Question Pool. Keep in mind that these questions, due to there being such a large question pool, will be read as the question and then going directly to the answer without reading all the answers. Also, the answers can change order, so I will not be giving A, B, C, or D as the correct answer, only the correct answer. Sub-element E1 covers the Commission's rules. 6 exam questions come from the 6 groups out of a possible 75 questions. Question E1A01, which of the following carrier frequencies is illegal for LSB AF-SK emissions on the 17-meter band RTTY and data segment of 18.068 to 18.110 megahertz? Correct answer is 18.068 megahertz. E1A02, when using a transceiver that displays the carrier frequency of phone signals, which of the following displayed frequencies represents the lowest frequency at which a properly adjusted lower sideband emission will be totally within the band? Answer is 3 kHz above the lower band edge. E1A03, what is the maximum legal carrier frequency on the 20-meter band for transmitting USB AF-SK digital signals having a 1 kHz bandwidth? Answer is 14.149 megahertz. E1A04, with your transceiver displaying the carrier frequency of phone signals, you hear a DX station calling CQ on 3.601 MHz lower sideband. Is it legal to return the call using lower sideband on the same frequency? Correct answer, no. The sideband will extend beyond the edge of the phone band segment. E1A05, what is the maximum power output permitted on the 60-meter band? 100 watts PEP effective radiated power relative to the gain of a half-wave dipole. E1A06, where must the carrier frequency of a CW signal be set to comply with FCC rules for 60-meter operation? Answer is at the center frequency of the channel. E1A07, what is the maximum power permitted on the 2200-meter band? Answer is 1 watt Iarp, equivalent isotropic radiated power. E1A08, if a station in a message forwarding system inadvertently forwards a message that is in violation of FCC rules, who is primarily accountable for the rules violation? Answer is the control operator of the originating station. E1A09, what action or actions should you take if your digital message forwarding station inadvertently forwards a communication that violates FCC rules? Answer is discontinue forwarding the communication as soon as you become aware of it. E1A10, if an amateur station is installed aboard a ship or aircraft, what condition must be met before the station is operated? Answer is its operation must be approved by the master of the ship or the pilot in command of the aircraft. E1A11, which of the following describes authorization or licensing required when operating an amateur station aboard a U.S. registered vessel in international waters? Answer is any FCC issued amateur license. E1A12, what special operating frequency restrictions are imposed on slow scan TV transmissions? Answer is they are restricted to phone band segments. E1A13, who must be in physical control of the station apparatus of an amateur station aboard any vessel or craft that is documented or registered in the United States? Answer is any person holding an FCC-issued amateur license or who is authorized for alien reciprocal operation. E1A14, except in some parts of Alaska, what is the maximum power permitted on the 630-meter band? Answer is 5 watts EIRP. Going to E1B, station restrictions and special operations. Restrictions on station locations. general operating restrictions, spurious emissions, antenna structure restrictions, and RACES operations. E1B01, which of the following constitutes a spurious emission? An emission outside the signal's necessary bandwidth that can be reduced or eliminated without affecting the information transmitted. E1B02, which of the following is an acceptable bandwidth for digital radio mondial DRM-based voice or SSTV digital transmissions made on the HF amateur bands? Correct answer is 3 kilohertz. E1B03, within what distance must an amateur station protect an FCC monitoring facility from harmful interference? Answer is 1 mile. E1B04, what must be done before placing an amateur station within an officially designated wilderness area or wildlife preserve or an area listed on the National Register of Historic Places? An environmental assessment must be submitted to the FCC. E1B05, what is the National Radio Quiet Zone? An area surrounding the National Radio Astronomy Observatory. E1B06, which of the following additional rules apply if you are installing an amateur station antenna at a site at or near a public use airport? You must notify the Federal Aviation Administration and register it with the FCC as required by Part 17 of the FCC rules. E1B07 says, to what type of regulations does PRB-1 apply? And that is state and local zoning. E1B08, what limitations may the FCC place on an amateur station if its signal causes interference to domestic broadcast reception, assuming that the receivers involved are of good engineering design? Answer is the amateur station must cease operation on all frequencies below 30 MHz. E1B09, which amateur stations may be operated under RACES rules? And that answer is any FCC licensed amateur station certified by the responsible civil defense organization for the area served. E1B10, what frequencies are authorized to an amateur station operating under RACES rules? All amateur service frequencies authorized to the control operator. E1B11, what does PRB-1 require of regulations affecting amateur radio? Reasonable accommodations of amateur radio must be made. E1B12, what must the control operator of a repeater operating in the 70 centimeter band do if radio location system experiences interference from that repeater? Answer is cease operation or make changes to the repeater to mitigate the interference. E1C covers rules pertaining to automatic and remote control, band-specific regulations, operating in and communicating with foreign countries, spurious emission standards, HF modulation index limit, and bandwidth definitions. E1C01, what is the maximum bandwidth for a data emission on the 60 meters band? Answer is 2.8 kilohertz. E1C02, which of the following types of communications may be transmitted to amateur stations in foreign countries? Answer is communications incidental to the purpose of the amateur service and remarks of a personal nature. E1C03, how do the control operator responsibilities of a station under automatic control differ from one under local control? The answer here is under automatic control, the control operator is not required to be present at the control point. E1C04, what is meant by IARP? Answer is an international amateur radio permit that allows U.S. amateurs to operate in certain countries of the Americas. E1C05, when may an automatically controlled station originate third-party communications? Answer here is never. E1C06, which of the following is required in order to operate in accordance with SEPT rules in foreign countries where permitted? Answer, you must bring a copy of the FCC Public Notice DA 16-1048. E1C07, at what level below a signal's mean power level is its bandwidth determined according to FCC rules? Answer is 26 dB. E1C08, what is the maximum permissible duration of a remotely controlled station's transmissions if its control link malfunctions? Correct answer is 3 minutes. E1C09, what is the highest modulation index permitted at the highest modulation frequency for angle modulation below 29.0 megahertz? The answer here is 1.0. E1C10, what is the permitted mean power of any spurious emission relative to the mean power of the fundamental emission from a station transmitter or external RF amplifier installed after January 1st, 2003 and transmitting on a frequency below 30 megahertz? Correct answer is at least 43 dB below. E1C11, which of the following operating arrangements allow an FCC licensed U.S. citizen to operate in many European countries and alien amateurs from many European countries to operate in the U.S.? Correct answer is CEPT agreement. E1C12, what portion of the 630 meter band are phone emissions permitted? The correct answer is the entire band. E1C13, what notifications must be given before transmitting on the 630 meter or 2200 meter bands? Answer is operators must inform the Utilities Technology Council, UTC, of their call sign and coordinates of the station. E1C14, how long must an operator wait after filing notification with the Utilities Technology Commission before operating on the 2200 meter or 630 meter band? The answer is operators may operate after 30 days providing they have not been told that their station is within 1 kilometer of PLC systems using those frequencies. Going on to E1D, amateur space and earth stations, telemetry and telecommand rules, identification of balloon transmissions, and one-way communications. E1D01, what is the definition of telemetry? One-way transmission of measurements at a distance from the measuring instrument. E1D02, which of the following may transmit special codes intended to obscure the meaning of messages? Answer is telecommand signals from a space telecommand station. E1D03, what is a space telecommand station? Answer is an amateur station that transmits communications to initiate, modify, or terminate functions of a space station. E1D04, which of the following is required in the identification transmissions from a balloon-borne telemetry station? Answer is call sign. E1D05, what must be posted at the station location of a station being operated by telecommand on or within 50 kilometers of the Earth's surface? Correct answer is all of these. So a photocopy of the station license, a label with the name, address, telephone number of the station licensee, along with a label with the name, address, and telephone number of the control operator. E1D06, what is the maximum permitted transmitter output power when operating a model craft by telecommand? Correct answer is 1 watt. E1D07, which HF amateur bands have frequencies authorized for space stations? Answer is only the 40, 20, 17, 15, 12, and 10 meter bands. E1D08, which VHF amateur bands have frequencies authorized for space stations? Correct answer is 2 meters. E1D09, which UHF amateur bands have frequencies authorized for space stations? Answer is 70 centimeter and 13 centimeter. E1D10, which amateur stations are eligible to be telecommand stations of space stations, subject to the privilege of the class of license operator held by the control operator of the station? Answer here is any amateur station so designated by the space station licensee. E1D11, which amateur stations are eligible to operate as Earth stations? Answer is D. Any amateur station subject to the privilege of the class of operator license held by the control operator. E1D12, which of the following amateur stations may transmit one-way communications? Answer is A, space station, a beacon station, or telecommand station. E1E covers the Volunteer Examiner Program, definitions, qualifications, preparation and administration of exams, accreditation, question pools, and documentation requirements. E1E01, for which types of out-of-pocket expenses do the Part 97 rules state that VEs and VECs may be reimbursed? Answer is preparing, processing, administering, and coordinating an examination for amateur radio operator license. E1E02, who does Part 97 task with maintaining the pools of questions for all U.S. amateur license examinations? Correct answer is C, the VECs. E1E03, what is a volunteer examiner coordinator? Answer is an organization that has entered into an agreement with the FCC to coordinate, prepare, and administer amateur operator license examinations. E1E04, which of the following describes the volunteer examiner accreditation process? The procedure by which VEC confirms that the VE applicant meets FCC requirements to serve as an examiner. E1E05, what is the minimum passing score on all amateur operator license exams? Answer is minimum passing score of 74%. E1E06, who is responsible for proper conduct and necessary supervision during an amateur operator license examination session? Answer is each administering VE. E1E07, what should a VE do if a candidate fails to comply with the examiner's instructions during an amateur operator license examination? Immediately terminate the candidate's examination. E1E08, to which of the following examinees may a VE not administer an examination? Correct answer is relatives of the VE as listed in the FCC rules. E1E09, what may be the penalty for a VE who fraudulently administers or certifies an examination? Answer is revocation of the VE's amateur station license grant and the suspension of the VE's amateur operator license grant. E1E10, what must the administrating VEs do after the administration of a successful examination for an amateur operator license? They must submit the application document to the coordinating VEC according to the coordinating VEC's instructions. E1E11, what must the VE team do if an examinee scores a passing grade on all examination elements needed for an upgrade or a new license? 3 VEs must certify that the examinee is qualified for the license grant and that they have complied with administering VE requirements. E1E12, what must the VE team do with an application form if the examinee does not pass the exam? Correct answer is return the application document to the examinee. E1F covers miscellaneous rules, external RF power amplifiers, prohibited communications, spread spectrum, auxiliary stations, Canadian amateurs operating in the U.S., special temporary authority, and control operator of an auxiliary station. E1F01, on what frequencies are spread spectrum emissions or transmissions permitted? Correct answer is only on amateur frequencies above 222 megahertz. E1F02, what privileges are authorized in the U.S. to persons holding an amateur service license granted by the Government of Canada? Answer is the operating terms and conditions of the Canadian Amateur Service License not to exceed U.S. Amateur Extra Class License privileges. E1F03, under what circumstances may a dealer sell an external RF power amplifier capable of operation below 144 MHz if it has not been granted FCC certification? Answer is, it was purchased in used condition from an amateur operator and is sold to another amateur operator for use at that operator's station. E1F04, which of the following geographic descriptions approximately describe line A? A line roughly parallel to and south of the border between the U.S. and Canada. E1F05, amateur stations may not transmit in which of the following frequency segments if they are located in the contiguous 48 states and north of line A? Answer is D, 420 megahertz to 430 megahertz. E1F06, under what circumstances might the FCC issue a special temporary authority to an amateur station? To provide for experimental amateur communications. E1F07, when may an amateur station send a message to a business when neither the amateur nor his or her employer has pecuniary interest in the communications? E1F08, which of the following types of amateur station communications are prohibited? Answer is communications transmitted for hire or material compensation, except as otherwise provided in the rules. E1F09, which of the following conditions apply when transmitting spread spectrum emissions? Answer here is D. All of the choices are correct. I'm not going to read all those. E1F10, who may be the control operator of an auxiliary station? Only technician, general, advanced, or amateur extra class operators. E1F11, which of the following best describes one of the standards that must be met by an external RF amplifier if it is to qualify for a grant for FCC certification? It must satisfy the FCC's spurious emission standards when operated at a lesser of 1500 watts or its full power output. Alright, and that will end our first video. Hopefully these will benefit you, and we will continue to roll them out. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget to follow and like our page, Clay County Area Amateur Radio Club.